Very good morning, everyone. Charles here of Frgnt. Wednesday, the 5th of November 25. Pre-London Open, just taking a look at my chart analysis that has now been completed for the day ahead. As always, first, just taking a look at the DXY to see where we are. Will the DXY, will that index slow down? Will that index slow down at all to bring in our forecast for the other pairs? We do see there's still some room to the upside, especially towards that weekly 50 EMA in and around this area. We've got a wick imbalance potentially to fill as well, but what also must be said is we are currently in an area in a 4-hour order block as well as a higher time frame daily order block supported by that weekly 50 EMA. So I do see price to make some continued pushes to the highs before a potential turnaround. I've got my alerts set, and throughout the day I'll just be moving those alerts accordingly to then help us with our bias with the other pairs, EU, AU, GU and EG for the day. So as always, we are governed by the DXY. If the DXY starts to turn around, then we should see some breaks of structure in the opposite directions for our pairs such as GU, EU and AU. Then when the DXY starts to make a pullback up for a potential short rollover to the daily 50 EMA perhaps, then we can look to enter our position. So it's already forecasting to be a patient day, all dependent on the DXY. So let's see where we fare. Next on the chart is Euro US dollar. In a nice position here, we've got a beautiful trading range if we zoom right out on that 15-minute time frame. It's been measured at some point, but I can't see it, so let's have a look now just to measure the potential short down to the potential long opportunity from those lows. There is 87 pips there, so more than enough range for myself to look for a 1 to 3 at the very least. Why do we have this bias? Well, if we zoom out on that weekly time frame in the bottom right hand corner, we can see there is that wick there that price is looking to fill. That wick is then supported by the weekly 50 EMA for potential longs, although on the daily time frame, as you can see quite clearly, price is incredibly bearish. However, look where it's going in towards. Price is trending in towards that daily order block sat there, which caused that incredibly bullish move to begin with. So as always, using smart money concept, when price looks to come back into that area, we can expect a reaction from those lows before looking to take the long position. If we compare that with the DXY, of course, we expect the DXY to potentially continue a little more in terms of the bullish rally. With that bullish rally, then of course that would see GU come into these lows. Once GU then comes into these lows, we then expect to see the turnaround in the DXY, and that would support our long position on GU. AU. Much of the same, to be quite honest. We have that trading range more illustrated over here on that 4-hour time frame. Ideally, I'd like price to come up first into that 4-hour order block supported by that daily 50 EMA, previous daily highs, as well as the 50 EMA, if I haven't already said that, the 4-hour 50 EMA. Once price gets into that area, then I will be looking for a lower time frame break of structure. Potentially, I will also await a 1-hour candle close bearish from there. Since price would be incredibly bullish as it gets into that area, we'll see how price arrives into our points of interest before looking to go short. But this is a nice area. As I've mentioned, it's supported heavily by confluences on the higher time frames, mid time frame on that 4-hour time frame, as well as the lower time frame 15-minute order block sat there. So in terms of this position, if price was to come up into this area first, I'd be looking to take this down only towards the weekly 50 EMA, because we are expecting rejection from that weekly 50 EMA as we're already seeing. So in an ideal world, it would be more beneficial for price if we come to the top left hand chart to actually come down to the lows first, then we can take that position alongside the expectation that the weekly 50 EMA should reject. If that position comes in first, then I will not be taking shorts, as it is already Wednesday, and the rejection of that weekly 50 EMA is already occurring, and price, as you can see, has tapped into that wick imbalance. As I always say, wicks get filled, so there's not too much confidence really once price comes up to then come back down, because we have indeed done exactly what we expect that weekly 50 EMA to do, is reject. So therefore, if a short position is to be taken, we need to be getting out by that weekly 50 EMA, as we are expecting a continuation bullish on that weekly 50 EMA for this weekly candle to close above it. Into GU now. Weekly time frame, in and around that weekly 50 EMA, supported by a 4-hour order block illustrated to the bottom left hand chart. So within that area of the weekly 50 EMA, supported by that 4-hour 50 EMA as well. Alongside that, just below, we have a daily order block that has been created due to the bearish engulfing candle yesterday. Potentially interesting in the short position from there, as we have a 4-hour order block sat in and around that area as well. Because of the two areas, and of course I'd much prefer to take the trade from this area, we have to take the facts on board. If price does come into this area and gives us that lower time frame break of structure in this element, I would be waiting for a 1-hour bearish close from that candle. I'd highlight the highs of that wick created from that bearish candle, wait for price to retrace back into that area on the lower time frames before looking for a lower time break of structure, before then going short. The reason why is because of those two areas. I need the confirmation that this is the area that price is looking to reject from, not that price is just going to come into that area, give a rejection, which we can expect, but continue on to the highs, and then that's the position that we should have been waiting for. So as I said, I'm happy to take both positions. However, I need the confirmation in this area more so than this area. As you can see, it's heavily supported here by that weekly 50 EMA, and as I've stated previously, once the previous weekly candle in this instance has closed below that weekly 50 EMA, we are expecting, if you put your attention to the bottom right hand chart now, price to come up to that weekly 50 EMA, potentially breach it, but at the end of the day, or the end of the week, once the Friday candle closes, we expect price to have rejected that weekly 50 EMA and give us something along those lines. Now finally, Euro GBP to finish off the analysis today. Euro has been incredibly bullish against the pound this week, as you can see highlighted on this weekly candle. It's pushing up into an area on the weekly time frame, a weekly order block. If we zoom out heavily, all the way back to the 1st of May 2023. Nevertheless, we take the facts on board. We don't take positions in the immediacy. However, it's important then to come down into the time frames to really refine that area, to get a good basis in when that trade would be ready to be taken. On that daily time frame, we can see continuous daily rejection candles. Bit unfortunate with that tremendous bullish engulfing yesterday, but currently price is holding, or price is seemingly rejecting that area. We do need more before we look to take the short position. However, looking over to the 4-hour time frame, there is a 4-hour order block. Again, I had to scroll incredibly far back, so for me that's already giving some red flags in terms of what I need to await. So I've highlighted some areas on the 4-hour time frame as well as the 1-hour time frame, of which I require structure to be broken before I take that trade. What do I mean by structure to be broken in this instance? Well, the difference that we can see in this area, that a candle hasn't closed bearish below this area on that 4-hour time frame. So I need to see a bearish candle on that 4-hour time frame close. Once that 4-hour time frame candle has closed, that will then give us an opportunity for price to pull back up into an area of imbalance left behind on the lower time frame. Perhaps the 1 hour would be great. Once we can then locate an order block on the 1-hour time frame, taking your attention to the top left hand corner, we can then look to refine that 1-hour time frame down to the 15-minute time frame, looking for those continued breaks of structure, and then we'd have the confluence as well as the confidence that price is ready to turn around on EG. But with that said, we'll take all price and all indexes into consideration, for example the DXY, to build some confluence on when EG will be ready for the turnaround. So EG could potentially be one of my favorites for today. As I said, a lot needs to happen. I need a structure close below this area of some sort, leaving a wick imbalance at the top. We'll then have price trend back up into that wick imbalance, highlighting that wick imbalance will most certainly have a 1 hour or a 15-minute order block sat at the top, allowing us to sell from the absolute highs. As well as EG, my other favorite, if I do look, EU, potential longs, shaping up nicely, supported by that weekly 50 MA as I suggested previously, and that wick imbalance with that 4 hour order block and a 1 hour order block sat at the lows of which caused this move. And I'm just looking for that continuation. Thank you very much for listening to the chart analysis. My name is Charles. All the very best in your trading day. Do take care.